Hey, here we go.
Hey, another week. So, so we're kind of in a 5-part series that we did one last week. Kind of this from to, right? How do we go? A journey, kind of journey perspective. How do we go from to something, right? And so this week we're talking about how to really go from
a small town girl living in a lonely world.
We get kicked off YouTube for
that.
Sorry. Go from self-centered to Christ-centered, right? So in your faith journey, last week we talked about how to go from enemies of God to friends of God.
Yep.
And now really what we're looking at is how to instead of looking at everything about me, and what are my needs, instead looking at trying to be more Christ-centered, and it's really about desire, right? Is what it boils down to. Going from desiring things for yourself, because that's what you want, to desiring what God wants for you.
Correct, which is ultimately a better, wiser decision than what you want for you.
Yeah. So wait, I got the first question coming at you hot.
Well, okay.
Get ready. What is something that you really wanted as a kid?
As a kid?
As a kid.
I was into personal cutlery.
Oh, okay. Pocket knives?
All of them.
Anything with a sharp blade?
Anything with a sharp... Well, shoot, it didn't even have to be sharp.
Like katana sword?
Oh, man.
Throwing stars?
Oh, that would have been... So, yeah. The throwing... The knife that you not only can cut with, but you can throw.
Yeah.
And stick into something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like those businesses now where you can go and they got like axe throwing, where you can throw axes. If they had that when you were a kid, that'd be your birthday party.
Over it.
Yeah.
I would have been all over it.
That's cool. That's cool. I remember this. Kids, back in my day.
Okay.
You used to have catalogs, right? That mail
the
catalogs.
Sears catalog.
Yeah, Sears catalog or whatever.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
Not even a business
Probably
anymore.
Shouldn't be. They still do. Amazon sends them out now.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Amazon now sends out the Sears, the wish book.
The wish book, yeah, and the kids love it. I mean, they go through it and they circle the things that they want, and then they, you know, it's great. So that brought me back to my childhood. Well, anyway, we had this one book. It was like a mail order. It wasn't like a company that you would know that you could walk into the store, right? So you had to like write down what you wanted, put it in an envelope with a check, right, and then mail it off, and then hopefully in like a month you get this package. Anyway, so there was something on it that I really wanted, and it was like a detective set, right?
Oh yeah,
it was like a little magnifying glass,
the dust for the fingerprints,
the fingerprint
and the tape
dust
to lift it.
Yes, dude, yeah, all that stuff, right? So
did you ever get it?
No.
Oh, I had one.
We did get one that was similar, but not the one that was in the catalog. And so actually my brother got it, which was like really kind of messed up because he probably wanted it too, but like, man, for years I wanted this thing, you know. Anyway, so yeah, that's never got it.
Never got it. Man, I wanted we're talking parenting fails this morning. I let my when the guy at the gas station generously offered complimentary sodas to the boys, I let my 9-year-old, he's almost 10, but if we're being accurate, he's 9.
9 3/4.
Yeah, well, he'll be 10 this month. But I said, yeah, it was the big 32-ounce fountain drink things. Like,
oh yeah.
He's like, yeah, just sorry about the the pizza steak. It's so long. Just grab a soda.
Yeah, that's nice of him.
Yeah, and so kid says, "Hey, can I get Mountain Dew?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, man, whatever." So it's a 32-ounce Mountain Dew, right? Like total parenting fail there. Yeah. Well, anyway, when I was 8, so younger than him, I wanted a machete.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like a machete,
like a nice.
Oh yeah,
like a kid-sized machete,
no,
or like an adult-sized
yes.
machete. Okay,
like
whacking down some bushes.
What was the movie? Romancing the Stone.
Oh,
right, with what was his name?
Can't remember. Yeah, but yeah,
yeah. He had a machete in that, like whacking through the jungle.
Yeah.
We had some wooded acreage on where we grew up, and man, I just wanted to be out there whacking through the jungle, right?
I love it.
And really the old machete doesn't clear like oak timber like it would
a giant oak tree.
It doesn't go through hickory.
Yeah.
Like it would maybe like a fast growing
vine,
jungle foliage.
Yeah.
The old slower growth creates a harder wood. But anyway, for my 8th birthday, I got one.
You got a machete?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
How about that?
That's cool.
Eat your heart out, kids.
Dude, tell you what.
It was awesome. Came with a sheath. Wore it around my waist.
Well, yeah, you have to have a sheath.
The military sheath with the double holes all the way around. Mm-hmm. Had the canteen holder on the other side.
I got a slingshot when I was 10, and we at one point we lived in Dallas, and they had pecan trees everywhere.
Oh, I love pecans.
Yeah.
No, like love.
I love pecans. I love pecan pie. I say a pecan because it's pecan.
I do too, because pecan. It drives my kids nuts.
It drives my wife nuts.
Yeah.
It's like pecan. So I had one of those military belts with a pocket.
Yeah.
And loaded up with pecans.
Yeah.
Get my slingshot, just shoot it at trees and all kinds of stuff. I was always told never to shoot an animal. Like a bird.
But what about a squirrel? Like, technically, you're feeding him. You could argue. You just like rapid fire, like sharing your pecans with squirrels.
We did have an armadillo come around once. Shot him with it. It was
armored.
Okay. Yeah, because it's armored, and they're like really big pests, man. They're like really.
But more importantly, he's armored.
He's armored. My dad shot it with a shotgun. It jumped like 8 feet in the air. Then just ran off. Like even the shotgun didn't like pierce that armor.
You want to know a little known fact about armadillos?
Yeah.
Leprosy. They have it.
They have leprosy? Mm-hmm. They spread it?
They're
carrier.
major carrier of it.
Good thing I don't want to touch them.
Mm-hmm. Because of their low body temperature.
So, obviously we talked about stuff like our desires as a kid, right? But that stuff changes over time, right? Like I don't want a detective set now. With a little tape and stuff like that.
And I still have my machete.
I bet you do.
Got a razor's edge on it, baby.
So our desire changes, right? So what would you say, not to get too deep and personal, but like what are some of the desires you think as a maturing individual or well-matured individual, what do you think obviously that changes into what? Food security, making sure we have plenty of stuff to eat, having a house, clothes and.
Yeah. And I think probably personality gets into it too. You have more, we're all different folks, and I don't think you necessarily mature from being like a short-term thinker to a long-term thinker, right? I think somebody who has a more propensity towards securities, like not hoarding, but building up enough and then some, and then a little bit more. And then some extra.
It's never enough.
But they're probably the same responsible folks that separated and sorted their Halloween candy and prioritized it and decided which ones they were going to last longer and, not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be.
Right?
That's totally me.
I know. See what I'm saying? I don't know that I would think I think we associate that with maturity, but I think it's probably some of that's probably some skills you've had.
Well, no, I would agree with that, but I would say the difference is when you're 8 or 9 and you think about what you want now or the next week. You don't think about, like I'm trying to get my 11-year-old to like invest, like if she gets $100 for Christmas, across all the things, then spend part of it, save part of it, and donate or give to others part of it, right? And the percentage, like you could say a third or whatever, right? Well, you pick up the percentage, but I'm trying to teach them to, and actually all my kids except for the littlest because he won't understand, but how do you got this money? How do you spend some on what you want? How do you save some, not to spend it on what you want later? You know what I mean? Like, how do you save some, and then how do you, and so like I got her a stock market account, right? Like a or whatever. So she takes some of the money and she gives it to me, and then within my guidance of not letting her buy really bad stock, we'll buy stock for her, within her choice, and trying to get her to understand, like, you're not buying the stock for it to go up in 2 weeks and then sell it and then you made money. Like, this is stock that when you're 40 or 50, you'll still have, right? So think about companies like that, right? And that's like a foreign concept to her.
Yeah, it's a foreign concept to me, Keith.
Well, no, I mean, she's in like a stock market club at school, and their goal is, they got like fake money, right? It's all in this fake, kind of thing, but it's the real stock market up and down. It's just fake money, right? They call it a paper account. Well, anyway, so they got like $10,000, and then they buy a stock, and then they watch the performance, and she's like, yeah, we bought Coke, or no, maybe it's PepsiCo. Anyway. And it wasn't like 2 weeks later, it wasn't doing it, so we sold it. I'm like, nothing's doing really good. So, like, I don't know what did you expect, And the smart kids in the class are the kids that haven't bought anything yet. They're just sitting on that 10K. Anyway, so yeah, I'm trying to get her to understand, like, it's not about at her age, like, it's about saving some of that money for when you're this age you can't fathom. Imagine your parents being like, you should save money for when you're our age. You're like, it's going to take forever to get there, like all these things I want first, right? So anyways, I think some of it's that, like, as you mature, you have the ability to kind of save for retirement, and, well, hopefully most people are doing that. But you have, the ability to say, oh, I need a new car in like 3 or 4 years. Maybe I should start saving instead of instant gratification on eating out, tonight. Maybe we should save some money for this car that we need, right? Anyway, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I hear you, but maybe the hard part for us is to not be the squirrel filling a tree full of nuts. More nuts than we could ever possibly eat. More pecans than possible. And kind of modulate that propensity to stash and store and hoard and store up, right?
Yeah. It's a balance, right? Like, we look at our desire, right? And, to your point, it's, you need we'll get off food for a second, but you need clothes, right? You can't walk around naked. Mm-hmm. So you need clothes. But do you need 16 closets full of clothes? Do you need the same shirt in 12 different colors, right? Like, do you need 52 pairs of sneakers to walk around in, right? Like, so that's kind of your point, right? Like, you need a pair of shoes and maybe a couple pairs of shoes for different reasons, but do you need, and you may like shoes, and that may be your thing, and so it's okay to have a couple different that match a couple different outfits, but like at some point you don't need 100 pair of shoes.
Right.
Okay, I'm with you. So
how's that relate spiritually?
Yeah, I mean, I think
that our spiritual maturity, learning to trust in God's providence, learning to trust in what God provides for our basic needs through means of others, willing to trust that, but not be complacent in our lives, but trust that God will provide. The more we trust, the more we recognize God's providence, the more our spiritual maturity grows in a way that naturally trusts God's providence. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we live with less fear and worry and fretting.
Yeah.
About the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And that frees us. It's liberating. I think that's the maturity of the spiritual journey of, so as we, steer back to the topic of when we trust in God's providence for ourselves, we start looking out for the needs of others, and we align ourselves with God's heart and will, and we become His tool for providing for others. We can delight in the joys of God's heart and sharing and being a part of others' lives and giving and helping and be part of God's providence to others.
Yeah. So I think you're right there in terms of, I think the big word that you used in there was worry. Right? Like, it's not that you should not care if you don't have food, right? It's about the worry part of it, right? And you only have so much time in the day, right? And so how much, what Jesus said, how much time have you gained from worry, right? Like, with all your worrying, how much time is that giving you in the day, right? None. It's actually taken time from you.
Yeah.
Because you're worried. Your mind is focused on worry that you can't focus on what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
And that worry's inward. It's not outward.
Right. And so I think the point in a lot of these, and I think a lot of people get some of this stuff confused, like when Jesus talks about worrying what we eat and what we drink and what we wear, and then some people would be like, "Yeah, I don't care. I don't even need to go to the grocery store. Manna from heaven, right? Like food's just gonna come to me." Well, that's not what he means. What he means is don't worry about it. Use that time and energy to do something else, right? Which we would then say to be more like Christ, right? And become a disciple like Christ. I do like that thought of, when you talked about providence, right? and really, instead of worrying about or thinking about your providence, the road you want to go through, the things you want to do, right? By freeing yourself up, you're helping with God's providence at that point, right? So and that kind of goes back to last week when we talked about an enemy of God versus a friend of God.
Yeah.
Right. And that journey of, and we talked about this in the prayer one that we did, right? Which is, I don't pray for things, right? Like,
your prayer isn't all supplication.
Right. It's not all like, cure me of this cold because it sucks, right? Or whatever. And I think that's what the tough part is, when people think that praying for God to heal you per se of like whatever's going on, and then when you don't get healed, it's like, well, God's not listening to me, right? That's not what God that's not what God wants you to do, right? So, yeah, I want to think of, like, personally, I just want to think about that a little bit more, because I think that's like a very opening, thought process. And I think back to my life, and I think about moments when I was focused on me and the outcomes that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
My life really, I don't want to say didn't get better, or wasn't any better, but it was definitely more challenging than the times that I stopped and I thought about, what is it that God would want me to do?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, I think that's the spiritual maturity of when you find yourself in that situation of thinking about, well, this is the outcome I want. And then you're like, well, is that the outcome God wants? And then you can think, well, is that outcome going to benefit anyone other than me? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's an easy litmus test with, if the outcome is beyond you, is greater than you, is a much larger impact than your own personal life, then there's a higher probability that you're lining up your desires with God's desires. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a pretty increased probability that you're being selfish and self-centered if the thing you're desiring is strictly for your own personal joy and gratification.
Now wait a minute. What about the whole, like, please God, let me win this lottery, right? Like, let me win $100 million. Think of all the good that I can do with a portion of that, right? Like that's the barter part of it, right? Where it's like, yes, it would help me, but think about all the stuff I could do with it, right? You know what I mean? Anyway, as an aside. Yeah, no, I mean,
try that
I like
prayer
that.
with 100%.
Yeah.
I will give away and see what happens.
And see what happens. Probably nothing. Yeah, no, I think that that's a pretty good litmus test, and not just yourself, but like your family too. I want this to happen because it's going to be good for me and my family, right? But is it good for the community? Is it good for your neighbors? Is it good for someone else, right? Beyond your immediate circle. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so we're kind of using a disciple. We're on this journey, these journeys of disciples, right? And we've our definition we're using is, a disciple is committed to a process of transformation into the image of Christ. Wait for it. For the sake of others.
Right.
And I think that's the last part of that definition. That's the last part of that definition that often gets missed. Mm-hmm. So in our journey, our discipleship journey, the what for, right? Like why, what are we transforming into Christ likeness for? Mm-hmm. It's not for our own salvation. It's for the sake of others.
Yeah.
And that's...
So this is my personal view, okay, that I'm kind of formulating. But I would also argue that if you're doing it to, like, I'm also doing this to save the masses, right? Like,
I'm not talking.
Really, I know,
Yeah.
and you and I are aligned, but I just want to be clear. Like, it's not becoming a disciple of Christ for the sake of others because I'm going to also save this person. I'm going to save this person. I'm going to save this person. It's about changing your desires in life to, I think, have a better life so that you can then help others in the same path that you have gone down, right? And so, if you look at like Buddhism, right? Buddhism is all about having no desire, right? It's like freeing yourself of any desire, because having desire, bad things happen, right? So no desire, okay? If you look at kind of this worldview, non-secular worldview, it's get more stuff, and then you can have whatever you desire, right? Like make more money, make more this, do more of this, and then you can do whatever, retire, and then you can do whatever you desire, right? Okay? So it's like two ends of the spectrum. No desire, give in to your desire, right? And Christianity is more in the middle. They're saying desire is okay. Desiring to do what God wants you to do is the path, right? Desiring what you want is not the path, right?
Because I guess what you're saying then is, desire is a powerful force. Mm-hmm. It's a powerful human force of motivation, and aligning that with God is positive.
Yeah.
Not aligning that with God is not only self-destructive, but not kingdom building, not drawing anyone near to God, not representing or living out a representation of a faithful life for others to recognize as selfless service.
Yeah.
So I can get on board with that.
And I think the ultimate, again, my opinion, the ultimate goal, like if you could set a goal, right? We say on earth as it is in heaven, right? Like we want to make earth more like heaven, where people aren't, lacking, but also don't have this, crazy personal desires, right? And I would say that the goal of any Christian would be to try to be a disciple of Christ and bring those heavenly things to earth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think, going back to what you said earlier, like I think some folks, I believe most professing, Christians around the world who are striving to be disciples have these great intentions, especially evangelically. What you're saying about save this person, save that. I think we can get misguided, and folks that think that well, no, actually, you and I, we can't save anyone.
Right.
Only Jesus can save. We can serve.
Yeah.
We can't save.
Yep.
And that is where we can get off base and start thinking we can do more than we can. And then it gets beyond serving. And if we change if we get our context outside of serving others, I think that's where we can get off track also.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good spot to leave it.
All right. Well, then here's our thought for the week.
Thought for the week.
How would you answer the question then going forward? So we talked about when we were kids, like, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Right? And it was, so now with a disciple of Christ mindset, with a Christian worldview, with a kingdom building, desiring the heart of God in mind this week, think about, what is it you want? What do you want, Keith?
I don't know, man. That's going to be hard. I'll have to think about it.
All right.
All right. Well,
catch you next week.